Hi, my name is Marty Downing, and this is my case study for EDL 854, which is Module 12, the budget debacle. Okay, so we're going to summarize the case. First, we have the unknown school district. Much is unknown. It is a large urban school district. There are 6 elementary schools that have a population between 500 to 800 students. There are 2 middle schools, 1 high school known for its winning football team. Most teachers in the district have taught most of their teaching careers in the district. There's only a few resignations or transfers to other districts by those teachers. The school district's curriculum focuses on basic skills and educational instruction objectives, which are based on basic skills. Funds from the central office are given to each school and are to be used to support the basic skills curriculums. Foundations at each school have been formed and are chaired by a parent representative. The foundations at each school raise money to fund supplementary curriculum, which has led to a great deal of competition among schools and confusion on who has ownership of those funds. The funds are given to the site principals and are to be used for supplementary curriculum programs that are recommended by the foundation. Next, we have the Breyer Elementary School. This is an urban school that's located in the middle of a diverse community. It has an enrollment of 600 students. It is a K through 5th grade elementary school. It also serves as the town's community meeting center. It is used for community concerts, town meetings, and the regional spelling bee. Next, we have the Briardale Foundation. It is a parent organization that raises funds to support supplementary curriculum, which is art, music, and foreign language. It is chaired by a parent representative. The new president is Mr. Barley, or Mr. Barely. Parents at Briardale are very supportive of the foundation and the supplementary programs. They did agree with Mr. Barely's fundraising idea. They sold the tickets and held the event at the Briardale Elementary School. Next, we have the principal, Mr. Carl Santos. He believes he is able to run a school and manage the school's budget. He supports the Briardale Elementary being used for those community events. He has always agreed with the Briardale's foundations, their recommendations for their supplementary curriculums. However, he does follow the protocol and forwards those recommendations to the school site curriculum committee. He did spend time with the new Briardale Foundation president, Mr. Barely. Mr. Santos clearly explained his role and responsibilities to Mr. Barely. Mr. Barely was to meet with the school site curriculum committee and inform them of any ideas he might have. Next, we have the new foundation president, or the new Briardale Foundation president, which is Mr. Barely. He is a new parent to the school community and was chosen to lead the foundation. He is a Harvard graduate and very competitive. He is very motivated to raise the most money ever raised by any foundation in the district. He was further motivated upon learning a former fraternity brother, Mr. Morley, was serving as a foundation president of another elementary school. Mr. Morley defeated Mr. Barely for class president while they were both at Harvard. Mr. Barely believes himself more than capable of running the foundation and raising the most funds. He remembered a fundraising idea from his fraternity days called Raffle for Cash. Mr. Barely did communicate his fundraising idea to the Briardale Foundation, and the foundation did greatly support his idea for this raffle. Next, we have the incident at the raffle drawing. It was held at Briardale Elementary School. The community gathered to support what was supposed to be the most successful fundraiser for Briardale Elementary School. What they didn't know was that there was a prize that awaited them. Just as the first raffle ticket was being drawn by the sheriff, just as the first raffle ticket was being drawn, the sheriff arrived and asked Mr. Barley to accompany him to the local sheriff's office. Mr. Barely was booked and released. He was later convicted of a misdemeanor and placed on probation for his role in the Raffle for Cash event. What Mr. Barely, Mr. Santos, the Middle Briardale Foundation, and the community failed to realize that raffles, or raffles for cash, were illegal in their state. Of course, Mr. Santos was very embarrassed over the event, which landed in the local newspaper as front page news. Now he is left with a supplementary curriculums with no funding. So the legal and ethical issues of this particular case study. First, we have the Kansas statutes. Kansas Charitable Gaming Act of 2014 allows for charitable organizations to conduct raffles. The state of Kansas defines raffles as a game of chance in which each participant buys a ticket from a nonprofit organization, with each ticket providing an equal chance to win a prize, and the winner being determined by a random drawing. The bill states that charitable raffles are an important method of raising money for charitable purposes and are in the public interest. The bill allows raffles to be conducted by bona fide nonprofit, religious, charitable, fraternal, educational, or veterans organizations. To conduct a raffle, the nonprofit organization must apply for a license yearly and pay an application fee based on the annual gross raffles receipts. But obviously, in their state, raffles were illegal, and in the state of Kansas were illegal up to only, just 6 or 7 years ago. So the ethical concerns. Let's talk about the raffles. They're a great way to raise money. There's little to no overhead. They can be held anywhere. Tickets are easy to sell. The trouble with raffles are the prizes. A prize can easily make a statement that is not consistent with the values and the principles of your school or school district. What do you do when a booster club wants to raffle off a weapon? What if you are a principal of a parochial school and the high school wants to raffle off a trip to Fort Lauderdale during spring break? Some schools may have very strict rules on gaming, and raffles are considered a game of chance. Therefore, some school districts may see raffles as a form of gambling, no matter how innocuous the prize is. Next, we have the school board master policy. So our question about this particular school district does the school board support raffles? Are there policies in place about fundraising and the use of raffles? That was not clearly stated in the case study. So we need to synthesize what has happened. At the raffle for cash drawing, a fundraising campaign for Briardale Elementary to support supplemental curriculums, Mr. Barley, the new president of the Briardale Foundation, was arrested due to the principal, the foundation, and the committee's failure to realize raffles were illegal in their state, resulting in a misdemeanor for Mr. Barley, a loss of funds for Briardale Elementary, and a stain on the principal's reputation. So let's talk about who happens to be involved in this case. We're going to talk about the principal, Carl Santos. Not much is known about him personally. We don't know how old he is, how long has he been a principal, how many years of experience did he have in the education field, or how long has he been a principal at Briardale Elementary. Did he have any idea of the raffle? Did Mr. Barely discuss it with him? If he did Mr. Santos check the school board policies? Did he discuss it with the superintendent? How does his staff feel about him? Is he well liked? Is he seen as impartial and fair? Does he work to create meaningful relationships with all staff and students? Does he promote the well-being of his staff and students? Now he has a budget concern for the supplemental curriculums. We have to assume he has to figure out how to get the money back to the people who bought a raffle ticket. Maybe. We don't necessarily know what happens to the money. Was it confiscated by the sheriff's department? What do you do now? I'm assuming the money is confiscated by the sheriff's department because it would be held in evidence and they would have to figure out how much money there was. It's really up to the sheriff's department whether they choose to give the money back. So now we have Mr. Barely. We know he attended Harvard. He's new to the school community. He was chosen as the new president of the Briardale Foundation. He must have elementary age children. We don't know if he does or how many he has. He is very competitive and motivated. We don't know what his profession is or how old he is. Did he meet with the principal, He did meet with the principal, Mr. Santos. He did raise quite a bit of money for the foundation after choosing to do a raffle for cash event. He did discuss his idea with the foundation. He was unfortunately arrested at the raffle for cash for illegally operating a gaming event at school. He was charged with a misdemeanor and now has probation. There's no information about the ramification or consequences in his personal or professional life. Now we'll discuss the sheriff. It's a complete unknown. He's mentioned in the resource only. Did the sheriff know days in advance? Did he or she have the chance to discuss the matter with the school district, or did they just wait? Who was the whistleblower? Why did they not say something to the superintendent, or at least the principal? Mr. Santos. Now we have the superintendent. Obviously there must be one. There probably is multiple one. It's a large district, but it is complete. That person or persons are completely unknown and they're not mentioned in the resource. So where is this happening? We have an unknown school district. It's a large urban school district. There's 6 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, 1 high school. The teachers are loyal to the district and rarely leave or transfer to other districts. What is unknown is how many teachers does the district employ, how many superintendents are there, what is the student population, how diverse is the student body, and does the staff represent that diversity? Then we have Briardale Elementary. It is a large urban school located in the center of town with a diverse population. This enrollment is 600 students. It's often used by the community for various events. It relies on the Briardale Foundation to fund supplemental curriculums of art, music, and foreign language. But what does that mean? Is that the curriculum materials? Does the district provide and pay for the staff required for those programs? If they do not, does it fall on the general education teachers to provide the instruction in those areas of supplemental curriculums? Does the district need those funds on a yearly basis? Who manages those funds? Are those funds expended every year? Can those programs function a year without the yearly injection of funds? Does the state offer no funding for those programs? Are those funds provided by the foundation over and above what the state provides? Are there any concerns about how those funds are being used? Does the district rely too heavily on them? How does the district really feel about the group of parents determining the use of the funds and making the curriculum decisions? And how are these programs managed at the middle school and high school level in the district? My other question is, what is the student population? What are they like? We obviously know it's 600 students, but what is their demographics? How many are on free and reduced lunches? Is there a diverse population of students? How many staff members? How many teachers? Are most of the teachers new or veterans teachers? Is there a diverse population of staff members? Does the staff reflect the diversity of the student population? How many administrators are there? And what are their duties? Is the school well or poor performing? Does the school district struggle to adequately staff the school? Are there instructional coaches? If so, how many? Are there guidance counselors? If so, how many? What is their role in the school? Do they counsel students or do they just handle the scheduling? Is the building old or new? Is it accessible to all students and staff? Is the school set up by teams and are classrooms arranged accordingly? Is there technology readily accessible to staff and students? What does the professional development look like? What is the culture of the school? Does the administration work to create a collaborative, inclusive, and diverse culture? How often are administrators in the classrooms? What are the school initiatives? What are their foundational structures for KISA? How are those being promoted? Are teachers required to turn in lesson plans? Have all curriculum maps been completed for each subject, including art, music, and foreign language? Are curriculum maps aligned between the grade levels in the specific subject areas? So next we have what programs are involved. Once again, we have the unknown school district. It's not mentioned in the case study. The schools are given their share of funding to support and fund the basic skills curriculum. It is assumed that the principal manages the school budget concerns. Did the school district create the foundations? How did the district allocate the funds for supplemental curriculums? Then we have Briardale Elementary itself. The school does have some control and management of the school's budget. How many is allocated for how is money allocated for their supplemental curriculums? What does this money funds provide for the school? How many children benefit from these funds? Is it a select few or do all the children benefit? Is all the money used? If not, what happens to the remaining funds? How does the school show the benefits to the students, to the community at large, and stakeholders? Is there an art show, music concerts? Is there band? Now let's talk about these elementary foundations for a minute. At face value, they sound like a great idea, but are they really? As a school district, it is imperative that all children get an equal access to all services. How can the school district ensure that all children are given the same opportunities and advantages as all the other children? The development of these foundations was created a very serious competition. Does this promote in some backhanded way an incentive for parents to work together to earn more funds? However, the result is some students do not receive the same services if the foundation monies are given directly to the school they represent. There is no way to ensure that all students are given the same opportunities year after year, no matter what school they attend, if the school district does not have control of the monies and divides the monies accordingly. If in a school district with 6 elementary schools, there has to be a school which is more affluent based on their students' demographics and another school who is not so lucky. The system creates a system of haves and have-nots. So now let's talk about the stakeholders. We have an unknown town. We can assume that it's a large and urban and diverse community. The community often uses Briardale Elementary for local meetings and community events. Could Briardale Elementary recover some of those lost funds by charging the community at large to use their facilities during this year? Are there board policies supporting this idea? How does the superintendent feel about it? And how would the school board feel about that? Next, we have the parents. The Briardale parents have been very supportive of the supplementary programs provided by the foundation. The parents run the Briardale Foundation that funds those programs. How many parents is that? Is there a president for there is a president for the foundation, but how diverse is the parent population of the foundation? Then we have the school board. The school board is not mentioned in the case study. We can assume it is an elected school board and not appointed. Is there a parent from Briardale Elementary on the school board? How many minorities are on the school board, or are they all Caucasian? Are minorities adequately represented in the running of the school district? How does the board value the supplemental curriculums and or only the basic curriculums? We have community members. The community does use the Briardale Elementary for events. It is no doubt that the unknown town schools are important to community members. Often schools are a major employer in towns, both large and small. The superintendent is not mentioned in the case study, but I would assume that they would be very concerned about the incident at Briardale Elementary School. Next, we have the staff at Briardale Elementary School. The school staff is not mentioned in the case study. My questions are whether they have counselors, how many principals, number of teachers per grade, do they have any elective teachers, the number of special educators, number of office staff, number of paras, both special education and otherwise. And lastly, we have the staff of the unknown town school district. How many staff members are there? A number of minority as teachers and high-level positions. Are they well paid? Is the pay fair and based on experience? So now we're going to talk about guidelines for fundraising activities. It is important to determine the purpose of the fundraising. It is important that the purpose or purposes are understood by all parties as to why it is necessary and what the proceeds will be used for. We need to determine the appropriateness of fundraisers used. Raising money through the sale of candies or cookie dough may send a mixed message to parents and students when students do not have access to these types of unhealthy foods at school. We need to ensure that there's gender equality and non-discrimination in funds distribution. An equal and equitable method of fund distribution would be for all the funds raised by all booster clubs to be pooled together into one single fund and then redistributed to all the clubs or programs. You need to be proactive about legal challenges and issues. Precautionary measures should be in place to minimize school and district liability, to avoid potential lawsuits by students, parents, or community members. You need to make sure that you're being compliant with federal, state, and local laws. School officials must make sure that all federal, state, and local laws are adhered to and not violated when it comes to fundraising activities. So next, what measures should be taken to ensure that parents comply with the law when conducting fundraisers? Probably first and foremost, there needs to be an approval process for fundraising activities. You need guidelines that pertaining to the process and procedures to be followed for the fundraising activity or activities, whether individual or by a group, including the forms required to be completed for the approval of the fundraising activity and parent disclosure form. Before the approval is given, the principal or designee should review the purposes of the fundraising activity, the finance and auditing procedures involving how the money is to be collected, accounted for, and how it's going to be distributed or spent, and there needs to be guidelines and directions to students regarding participation. Identifying potential risk concerns including student safety, supervision, and transportation issues, etc., and issues related to federal or state laws, local ordinances, and district policies. So the takeaway with this information is administrators need to keep in mind 3 principles when it comes to fundraising. You need to develop policies that require all school-sponsored fundraisers to be approved prior to implementation. Periodically hold meetings to train sponsors regarding legal pitfalls incurred by conducting fundraising activities. Continue to be vigilant regarding knowledge about fundraising activities. Do not ever assume you know something. It is always worthwhile to seek legal counsel if you're unsure about the legality of certain activities. All right, let's talk about the next slide. Okay, we're going to evaluate and develop option number 1. The principal could do nothing. It probably keeps the peace, I don't know, for a while, and it probably is easier for a while. However, the cons will, he will not be doing his job to the best of his ability. The school district will lose the funds required for art, music, and foreign language. It certainly damages the reputation of the school and the school district, and it damages his reputation as a fair and impartial school leader. Okay, the next option is I could just resign my position. It could be the superintendent and the school board, I don't know, they may require that. So it's easier for the principal. The superintendent may choose to not renew me, and I don't really have a choice anyway. The cons are there's no plan to change in the funding issues. It damages relationships, damages my reputation, and certainly damages the school's reputation. So now we have my choice. So first I would have to spend time talking to the superintendent. I need to discuss with the superintendent about the incident with the understanding that I may still be asked to resign. We need to discuss the board policies and what those are considering fundraising. I would also like to ask about you renting the school's facilities to community groups to recoup some of those lost funds. I would also choose to ask about using a crowdfunding platform to recoup the loss of funds for supplemental curriculums. I also would like to talk to them, although I'm not sure they want to listen to me at this point, about the concerns about the guidelines for fundraising for the Briardale Foundation and my concern about the foundations themselves. Are there some students who greatly benefit and some who do not, based on the amount of funds raised by the various foundations? Could the money be pooled by the district and evenly and justly distributed to each of the schools? So now let's talk about Mr. Barely. We're going to need to remove him as the president of the Briardale Foundation. There's just no way of getting around that. The Briardale Foundation itself, I would of course have to offer my apologies to the foundation and discuss a creation of guidelines and forms for fundraising activities and basically do some serious training for the Briardale Foundation. Now, the pros to that is it maintains my reputation as a fair and impartial leader. The funds may be found to support art and music and foreign language, and it does maintain the relationships hopefully with those involved. The cons is the funds may not be found to support art, music, and foreign language. And I still could lose my job. Okay, so the implementation of my decision. So first, I need to check board policies on fundraising and renting the school district's facilities. I need to obviously have a discussion with the superintendent about how we're going to get through this particular matter and make sure that I'm communicating with the superintendent on a daily basis via email or in person. Need to research alternative forms of funding for the supplemental curriculums. Develop and implement a plan for new fundraising. I think crowdfunding would be a great way to do that. Create and record an apology statement for all social media in the newspaper. Develop and implement new fundraising guidelines for all school activities, including Briardale Foundation. These are the meetings that I would definitely have to have. I'm going to have to talk to the school board about it and discuss my plan for resolving the incident. And of course, discuss with the Breyer Elementary administrative team and discuss my plan for moving forward. I'd have to talk to Mr. Barely and remove him from foundation president. Briardale Foundation, we make sure that there are training on the fundraising guidelines and the Briardale Elementary staff, and that we need to have training on those fundraising guidelines. And number 8, I need to have a willingness to change or modify the plan as on an as needed basis. I need to have patience. Change and forgiveness takes time. So here's the one resource that I used that was actually resourced from a previous module on fundraising. And here is my reflection. The process of completing the case study has allowed me to further my understanding of how to raise funds in an ethical and legal way. I found the case study challenging. It allowed me to think as a future school leader or a principal, being able to come back from such an incident would be very challenging. As a special education teacher, my biggest concern with the case study was the foundation themselves. The foundation system is inherently biased to the schools with more active or affluent parents. A very important part of our job as administrators is to ensure the well-being of all students, even the ones whose parents are not as active. Okay, thank you for your time, and good luck in the future.